Thank you, Dave, for joining us for today. Appreciate taking some time. You're in Tahoe today, aren't you?
Yeah, it's really good to be in my home turf in Tahoe, in northern Nevada. It's a gorgeous time to be here in the month of June.
Yeah, perfect. I know that you were just over in Europe, so probably happy to be back on the West Coast. This is going to be our inaugural first episode of our Blueprint Hustle podcast. We just released our first episode of the video series, episodic series that we released on YouTube and LinkedIn. So this will be accompanying it a little bit, just talking about the ups and downs of starting a business and definitely in the battery technology space as well, just keeping up to date with what we're doing as a company, and then I guess the temperament of the sector as a whole too. So, David, maybe speak a little bit about where Regenerate is right now and what are kind of the exciting things that you've been working on.
Yeah, I had a very incredible month of April. As you know, I went around the world essentially. I left Tahoe and I went to first to India. And we have a great opportunity in India, one of the largest battery manufacturers. They make over 50 million batteries just for motorcycles and another 20 million for vehicles. They decided to develop their own battery materials, recycling, doing a full circle of the battery materials, and they are very intrigued by our technology. And so I went over there with our Miles Freeman, our Chief Strategy Officer, and Ray Brown, President of United States Regenerate, and had a great time with about 12 engineers that were part of the Indian operation in the south of India. And the challenge of an early stage company like ourselves is you have to prove at scale that your technology works the same that it has in a pilot or demonstration plant. And we are getting all the test results that we need to encourage players like this one in India to engage with us. They're super interested. I think we'll have an MOU soon. That moves us out of, we've been focusing on the United States and Europe, but here this opportunity in India comes up. And from there, I went to Dubai, and there I'm very interested in looking at how our battery technology could be implemented in the Gulf states. The desert, the extreme heat is really tough on batteries. They have a much shorter life because of the impact of the heat on batteries. And so the fact that we can increase battery density by 40% in our lead acid batteries is quite attractive. And I'm talking to various players in the Middle East about how we might implement our technology in partnership with local players. Again, I think, Zach, the best way for us is to be able to engage with companies in places that already have operations, already have a supply chain, but we enter into that supply chain and improve it and enhance the capacity of their batteries.
Yeah, it seems like that's kind of been the way forward for Regenerate so far through acquisitions and taking, say, if it be talent from enhancing our team, or be the team or executive team or the board team as well, is just kind of bringing that expertise in. So it sounds like you're kind of put yourself in rooms with engineers, put yourself in rooms of labs. I was on a military base with you recently, and your background's more in the VC, I say, in the investment side of it. So how do you feel that you're challenged in being a CEO in a kind of a space where you're kind of learning new things along the way, but also trying to bring in stuff that you kind of assets that you have that you feel like you bring to the industry?
That's a great question, because I think oftentimes engineers or technologists end up being CEOs of companies that focus on technology, and maybe they don't have the skill set to actually build a business, and vice versa. I'm never going to pretend that I'm a chemical engineer or someone who is deeply embedded in battery technology. I learn every day. I immerse myself, and I'm curious, and I want to know more. But I hire the best people I can around me to play those roles. My job is to keep the company engaged in a business model that works and to bring out the best of the talent we have. As you know, probably the most important thing that we have is our talent. We have remarkable, global leaders in the battery industry, and I put them forward. It's not as if if you're a CEO and you're threatened by other people's knowledge, or that they might outshine you in a particular area, then you need to do an ego check. It really is about, when I talk to an investor, they want to know more about the technology. I'm happily bringing in Dr. Ethan Fox, our CTO, or Miles Freeman, who's been over 20 years in the battery industry and an engineering side of it, as well as the commercial side. So it's really bringing together the best team. And what I can do is just put myself in a learning situation where every day I feel like I'm getting smarter about the industry. But I think it's a mistake to limit yourself to one industry. Uh, if you're interested in business models and finance, it's rather finding the best way to use your talents in a sector that really needs scaling and growing.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I think what makes our company unique, like you said, is that we have players in different parts of the world that have very, deep background in this industry. So that's what's great about this series that we're going to do on this podcast is we'll introduce a lot of those people. And when we talk on a technical side, it'll be great to get Dr. Ethan Fox on, as well as Miles Freeman, and then moving forward, and also the other space, bringing in the financial team with Anders Bonde Bakken. So Dave, speak a little bit about moving forward in the investor space, which you're kind of leading the charge on the investor side. So where's that with our team, and what's kind of our big hurdle that we're looking at, and what's kind of our focus on in the company?
Yeah, our strategy really is to bring about a blend of private and public finance, so that we are able to tap into infrastructure commitments that governments are making as they envision the next 20 years of energy, and couple that with private investment. And I went to after I was in Dubai. I went to Italy and met with the head of the innovation agency. That's part of the Ministry of Energy, so the Department of Energy in the United States, but Ministry of Energy in Italy, and worked with them on submitting our grant. Our CEO of the Italian operation, Alberto Volpi, played a really major role, along with all of our team, our European team, to put forward an application that's really solid, and it looks very positive that we'll be getting government funding, both in grants and in loans. Now, to match that, we need to find private funding, and so we've had some commitments for private funding. Unfortunately, some of those are delayed, so we're trying to usher and accelerate those private funding commitments so that we can access the public funding. Now, this is the same strategy we'll bring to the United States as we start looking to the USA. This week, I'm going to be meeting with one of the top advisors to the White House on critical mineral strategy for the US government. And he wants to work with us to help us think about how we can, again, access public and private money to build the kind of infrastructure that will allow us to grow our impact with our technology.
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I think what's people, especially if you pay attention to American politics, is the people hearing the terms critical minerals, and they're hearing that thrown around with our relationship with Ukraine and the war. And to speak a little bit about that for someone who just sees that as a headline and doesn't have a lot of knowledge in the battery or in the critical mineral space, how would Regenerate play a role in leading that charge when it comes to the new age of critical minerals in, say, U.S. and globally?
Well, there's no doubt that critical minerals that will go into batteries or semiconductors or other key technologies that are at the foundation of the energy industry for the future. Now, it's really important that then we have access, and we, in this case, I speak about the United States. The United States has access to materials that it needs for these critical industries. 80% of the world's critical minerals are controlled by one country today, and that's China. And so if there was a break in economic relations, for whatever reason, due to policy, due to war, that if there's a break in those supply chains, then the United States becomes very vulnerable. Now, the same could be said for European countries, that every country needs to build its own storage and access to those minerals, but not just the minerals themselves, but the processing and refining. And that's what we do. We process and refine critical minerals, whether it's lithium or cobalt or lead, that we are able to do that and do it at a way that upcycles the value of those materials. Today in the United States, the majority of the materials that are used for batteries are exported. They're sent somewhere else to process and refine. And what we're doing, it's crazy because we're sending our assets somewhere else to refine and process, and then we have to buy new batteries back. So we're basically throwing away assets. And so what we're going to be doing with Regenerate is offer a way that the United States, Italy, Sweden, UK, that we can build our own reliance, both in terms of access to critical minerals and the process and refining, so that when a battery is at the end of life, it comes back straight into our economy. It doesn't go somewhere else.
Yeah, what kind of say, if you look at our website, first thing is you see a big bold is strategic national interest, and that's kind of what we push as a company. And a little bit different of a business model is say that we're working directly with these say European countries and soon to be the US as well on building the infrastructure of those countries, not trying to say remove resources from the country, but keep it within. So explain that model a little bit so people can understand how we kind of differ in that sense.
Well, you're right. It's great on the website. We feature that. It's repeating what the Italian government says about us, and we want to replicate that performance in other countries. The reason for that, let me just give you an example. Italy has 320,000 end-of-life batteries every year, 320,000 tons of lead acid batteries. They can only process 100,000. So they're exporting 220,000 tons of batteries every year. The reason the Italian government is so bullish on us is that we're going to enable those resources to stay home. So that's important. But also, when I look at the United States or European countries, we want to be at the top of innovation of battery technology as well. So this is not just about materials. It's about designing and creating a better battery, designing and producing that battery. And so instead of relying on other countries for the best technology to advance a battery in terms of its performance, we should be doing that in the United States, or we should be doing that in Italy. So we are really, Zach, as you know, not only just a battery materials company, we're a battery innovation company. We're a battery technology company. And this is why it's so important for governments to invest in us for their own national interest. And today, it's Asia where most of this innovation is happening. It's not happening in the United States or Europe.
So yeah, it leads to my next point in the innovation space. Is one of the things that makes us so unique is our IP. And as an American investor yourself, and oftentimes you've worked in Europe as well, is what attracted you so much about this IP coming out of collaboration with Cambridge and with Dr. Ethan Fox and Miles Freeman? What was that? Because that was kind of the initiation once we started and acquired every resource that kind of launched us as a serious company with the IP that behind it.
Yeah, I was very impressed with the team at Ever Resource that where Dr. Fox and Miles were working and had developed these technologies, over 20 patents at that time. And what I was impressed about is that it changes not only a process, it actually changes the chemistry of the way that you build a battery and process and refine it. And so when we take a battery, we separate the lead from the lead paste for the two parts of a lead acid battery. There has not been really innovation for over 100 years in the way that that's being done. And so at Cambridge, they were able to change the molecular structure of those materials, not just kind of somehow, use a lot of energy and heat to melt it and then put it into some other form. They changed through chemistry the molecular structure. So we have 90% less heat that we use because we're using chemistry. We're not using pyrotechnics. We have 90% a carbon footprint because we're not having those emissions. At the same time, we're increasing because we can customize that molecular structure for a particular performance. We can get 40% higher energy density. But if you would rather have that battery have, say, quicker charging or other qualities, we can change the molecular structure for that purpose or that objective. So it's manipulating the materials in a way that's not been done before. And that's why I was so impressed and wanted to join with them with Regenerate.
Yeah, super interesting to hear you talk about it as well. As it sounds like you went back and got your MBA in battery science. So it'll be interesting to have
I did. I
Dr.
learned so much.
Yeah, but that's great. A great part about being a CEO too is that you really take on a lot of the knowledge that your team has. So it's great that you've invested that time into what Dr. Ethan Fox and Miles have to say about this stuff, so you can be in that same room and have that same level of knowledge behind it. So I think one of the big things that we've had on our announcements on LinkedIn and on our socials is our USA team, the strength of that and how that's been growing, and the bringing Ray Brown on board. That was a big moment for us. Can you speak a little bit about bringing Ray on board? And we also brought Dennis Brown, but we'll talk a little bit about that after as well.
Yeah, no, Ray Brown really is one of the most knowledgeable and experienced leaders in the battery industry. He was at Johnson Controls, which is well known in the battery industry, and really led. They were a U.S. domestic company, and he led their global acquisition strategy. And he knows individuals and companies all over the world. I was talking to him on the phone just yesterday. He goes, "Oh yeah, I'm going to be talking about a company in Peru, and they like to be in Ecuador, and they like our technology." And then India. I was talking about. So it's not just U.S. He has great connections in the U.S., but he's globally connected. But he's also very strategic in how he thinks about the development of Regenerate in the USA. And so he brings not only then the wealth of experience, but a wealth of wisdom to his role.
Yeah, both of those, the combination is what is so crucial for, especially a young company, to have that type of level of knowledge is I think what makes us. I think once we establish the route that we want in the U.S., it's going to be a rocket ship. So, and bringing Dennis Brown on our board, he part of the Broman group as well with Ray Brown. I think that team that we have that would generate in the U.S. is really strong. So, big things ahead.
Dennis will join our global board, and his expertise has been with marketing. He was at Allstate and led their marketing, and more than just I would say market, but also business development. And so, the remarkable thing is that, as you say, as a young company, having Ray and Dennis in that leadership role, or in those leadership roles, we get into rooms we would never be able to get in because of the trust and confidence that the players in the market have for those two. And so that really accelerates our credibility and our access. And I've seen remarkable things just in the less than 6 months as they joined us, the opportunities that have come our way in the United States and beyond.
Interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of young companies would be like, how do you sell someone like Ray Brown or the other executives that we have on the team, Dr. Ethan Fox or anyone else that we've brought on board? Is how do you sell someone that has that level of knowledge on a company that's just coming off the ground? I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, that sounds like it's easier said than done.
Yeah, they have to believe in the business proposition. They have to believe that this is going to be special, and all of the people we recruited, they have 5-star reputations. They do. We had our first executive or leadership retreat last year. Zach, you were at, And I think we were just kind of looking around the room, and everyone who spoke with such depth of knowledge and experience. And I think with that kind of team, it really has to be, me as a CEO, it has to be a very horizontal company. It's not hierarchical in the sense of how we operate. I'm always asking for advice. I'm always asking for feedback. I'm always asking, is this the best idea? And that doesn't weaken me. That makes me stronger because I have such a strong leadership team around me. I think they would be unhappy or demoralized if somehow decisions were being made and they weren't participating in that decision making or bringing in their input.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Just before, I think excited to bring on more team members on this podcast that we as we go along. And just before we go, give us one thing that you're excited for the next couple of months. I know we might have another team retreat that's exciting, but give us something that a new development that you're working on right now and you're excited about the workings of it.
Well, I think there's two things. There's an opportunity in Mexico that's come up, a very large smelter that's being built, and we have the opportunity to engage with our technology. They're doing thorough due diligence. That opportunity is super exciting because it would help us bridge North America, what's happening in the United States, what's happening in Mexico, and perhaps even further down to South America. That's a whole bridge that I think is an opportunity for Regenerate technology. And the other is starting to build this. We have the plant built in India. In Italy. We have the facility ready, and now we're building out the equipment and the application. So I would say by Q3 we're going to start operating and producing product, and so that's a big leap forward as well. So I'd say that Regener has so many opportunities in front of us. We have to make sure that we have the capital, the talent, and the supply chain to execute on all those opportunities.
Yeah, awesome that we both exciting opportunities coming from Europe and from North America. So seeing the growth of Regenerate parallel in both across both sides of the continent is looking great. So big things ahead, and thanks, Dave, for joining us on this podcast for the first episode. And we look forward to having more of our team on board and hearing more about the growth of Regenerate and an inside look at it.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this series because I think, I know that people will then see the quality of talent we have that at the very top, at the leadership level, and it's quite remarkable.
And yeah, just internally too, just there's so much going on within our team that it's hard for everyone to stay up to date with what each individual is working on. So this was a great internal resource too for us to kind of just listen in and get 30 minutes of what someone's working on this week. So excited for the episodes to come, and this was a great start. So I really appreciate it, Dave.
Sure thing. Thanks, Doc.
All right, touch base soon.